Oh yeah, it's me. I'm here. Scott Stefano, first across the line. Good to see you here tonight, brother. Mike Draco, it's Wednesday, time for Cannonball Chronicles. Thanks for supporting us, buddy. Bruno Coppola, good evening from Laconia, New Hampshire. Hey man, this is Chris with Cycle Source Magazine. I am pleased and honored to be your engineer for the next 60 minutes of vintage and antique motorcycle talk, celebrating the racers and the machines of the Motorcycle Cannonball here on Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles. You guys get ready, 3.5 minutes, we're going live with this one, but that's still time for you to grab a drink, kick back, relax, and hit that like and share button. Help us get this thing out all over the two-wheeled universe. Jesus, it's starting off rough. Jeremy Valentine, Fort Wayne, Indiana. You powder coat. No, I didn't powder coat yet. Terrible. Mulder Benarski, hump day in New Jersey too. Hot hump day in Florida, Nancy Weems. It is. Matt Miller, number 46 in the house. Idaho One Man's in here with us. Mike Draco, Cincinnati. Getting ready to fire him up, Scott. 2 minutes, 53 seconds. We're going live with Cannonball Chronicles. Don't go anywhere. Whoa, Tom Watson, Twin Falls, Idaho. Some of the best country I ever rode through up there, man. Waited until Idaho was my 49th state on a motorcycle, and I was always like, Idaho, what am I going to see? It ends up Idaho has some of every kind of terrain that you can find in the United States. It's one of the most beautiful months that I spent riding was my time in Idaho and hanging out in the hot springs, and man, beautiful country up there. Billy J. Terry, Pageland, South Carolina. Scott Stefano reminding us, Bubba Booey. Stick around, guys. We're going live here in just 2 minutes. All right, special shout out for that one. Steve Ward watching from New Zealand. That's fantastic. David Courier here. Erica Redfield, Marshall, Michigan. Kendall Maroney, Melbourne, Australia. Fantastic, man. That's great. It's great seeing you, all you guys from all around the world. And that's due in large part to our friends over at Chopper Town, man. If you haven't checked out the stuff they're doing at Chopper Town, you want to, because it's not only programs like this, they got some full-length stuff. It's a good time. If you dig passing your time with two-wheel stuff, go check out Chopper Town. All right, blue collar build off here. Good to see you, David Courier, rider number 64, Fargo, North Dakota. Jimmy Bradley in the house. Christine Reisner, Marshall, Michigan. 35 seconds, man. That means it's time to get this one out of the garage and up onto the road. Let's go live with this week's Motorcycle Cannonball Chronicles. Here we go.
Hey everybody, what's happening? That's right, it's Wednesday night again, another night of Cannonball Chronicles. Coming to you live, I'm back here in Arizona, coming fresh off the Kanab AMCA Road Run. That's right, it was a great, couldn't be happier, had a good time with everybody out there, got to see a lot of people. If you tuned in last week, we got to see a few people out there. Get to see some cool things. You know, we got to see Todd Kammer running that '09 Indian around the parking lot. I should have uploaded a video that happened right after the show. Maybe on break I can get it sent over to our engineer, and we can actually play that on break. I think you guys will enjoy it. So maybe stick around for a little bit, and you'll get to see this little surprise video that I have tonight. Anyway, got my buddy here right next door to me, Mr. Rob Nussbaum. What's happening, Mr. Rob?
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm still a little jacked up this week, but doing good.
I'll bet you're tired, huh? Kind of wore out.
A little bit. A lot of stuff going.
Tell us about the excitement. Did they push you to the limit with the trailer or what?
Oh, dude, no, it was a good time. It was actually a lot of the bikes were running really good. We had a few fixes here and there. Luckily, it was kind of some stuff that I knew about and could help some people get back on the road. Unfortunately, we did have a few people that I had to get on the trailer, but hey, you know what? We had them fixed the next day, and they were back out there running again through the hills of Utah. So it was good. It was good.
What do you hear from the guys on the Make VLs Great Again run?
Sounds like they're having a blast out there.
Yeah, I talked to Cole. I understand you did too. What did he tell you? Anything?
A lot of stuff going on. Can't wait to catch up. But we'll need about 2 or 3 hours to sit down and hear all the, not drama, but the stories that have been happening. So
yeah,
been fun as online and following along with them. I just actually seen about 30 seconds ago. It looks like they made it back to Twisted Oz Museum now.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that was fun to follow. If you guys hadn't been following it on Facebook, these guys are riding VL Harley Davidsons from 1930 to 36, and they were riding from Kansas to Texas and then back the long way.
Yep.
With no particular route, right?
That's the way it always is with them guys.
Well, if Cole's involved, there's no route, right?
Right.
That's funny.
Maps.
We got a lot of our regular viewers tuning in tonight. We got Steve Broyle. Steve, how you doing, buddy? Steve, can't wait to meet you in person. Nancy Weems is out there. Chris Simmons is there. Tim Kearns is there. David Crum, who was with us last week live from the studio here, from the Retro Cycle studio up top, right? He came down and visited and helped us out quite a bit, helped out the Banks team. So it was pretty good. Really enjoyed seeing the stuff you guys sent us from out there. That was cool.
Way cool.
Way cool.
So not much more on our front since getting back. Actually, I take that back. We have been pretty busy here the last week. If you guys haven't noticed, we've been putting a lot of new merchandise on both the Motorcycle Cannonball storefronts and also the Cross Country Chase storefronts. Got a lot of great products, a lot of great people that we're teaming up with to bring you these products. A lot of American-made stuff out there for you guys. And hopefully you guys like it. We got some really great designs and products out there. So a lot of this stuff is very, very limited edition. So you better take advantage of it now because it might not be there later.
Well, I have my coin from the Cannonball, right?
Right.
Why is it called a challenge coin?
I don't know. Why do you tell us?
I have no idea. Do you?
I usually do, but I'm so looped up right now. I don't really.
So last week when you tuned in, we didn't have Tom's. We had just gotten Tom's motor in the bike.
Mm-hmm.
So he started it, but he wasn't able to ride it. We weren't done. The next day he went out, and he's happy to report that he went. I guess he put about 20 to 25 miles on the bike on Sunday. So those guys brought me the chassis, would put the motor in, then they took it back. So he went out Sunday and he put 10 miles on, shut it off, let it cool down, didn't want to overdo it. He said he only got it like half throttle. He was doing like 35 miles an hour, which on a single is pretty good, right? And then he said he cracked it a little bit. He went out a little while later, started to get some speed and the rear hub locked up. So now they got to fix the rear hub. But he said he skidded like 35 feet.
Holy moly!
Yeah, yeah. But he says he figures that thing's going to do. It's got pretty good speed in it. So they're going to fix the hub and then go back out with it.
Heck yeah. So, yeah, I don't. Other than that, I don't really have a whole lot to report.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the merchandise you got. All right.
Yeah.
So the coin is one thing.
Yeah, and that's one of them super limited edition items. A lot of the stuff that we did and put on there, we made pretty limited edition just to keep it a true collectible and just have some kind of meaning behind it a little bit.
That's cool. So what do you got? You got patches?
Yeah. So
Stickers?
this week we added a bunch of wool pennants, which the wool pennants are actually made from a partner of ours in Buffalo, New York, Oxford Pennant. They hand make every single one of these things. So they sit down and sew them and print them. A lot of the ones that we do for awards, they hand print all the letters on there and actually hand sew them. So, I mean, these are touched with some love. They're not just made from a machine and from overseas. So we just kind of pick some partners, and just giving back to some of those people that need some of our help too. So, and we're trying to keep everything local and homemade and stuff like that. So you'll see a lot of new t-shirts coming out, both on the Cannonball and the Cross Country Chase sites. These are all made in America, printed in America, and won't be printed with plastic, which is one thing that I'm getting away from is some of the single-use plastic stuff. So,
well, that's some cool stuff. Oh, I see. Nice keychain there. Pennant.
Yeah. So we got some great stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, very cool.
We thank everybody out there for the orders. These orders are kind of what keep us alive. Helps, of course, with this show, all of our overhead expenses, and really kind of keeps the Cannonball free to all the general public out there, so we don't have to charge to come see what we do.
Cool. So David Crum says whoever doesn't have a coin buys the next round. That's the challenge.
Right. But there's that for meaning back. It comes from the military, actually. And when I get my census here a little bit, I'll tell you we'll go into the whole story of it, of how it came to be with the military and stuff like that, and how the challenge come up on that. But
it's a nice little thing. I tell you, it's a really nice little keepsake. I'm really glad I got this one from the Cannonball. It's neat. I keep it around. I spin it on the desk.
Yeah, they're really.
It's my what do they call it? The widget thing or whatever they call it.
So
yeah, nice.
One that nobody's seen yet. Ooh.
The other way. Go the other way. There you go. Whoa.
So,
nice.
coming soon. And we got a lot of other things cool coming out too. So you just have to keep checking back on the websites and social media.
And that's where? What's the address of that? MotorcycleCannonball.com?
So you can see us at motorcyclecannonball.com or the motorcyclechase.com.
Right.
And links to the stores.
So tell us about your new glasses, Jason.
Oh, so check this out. Getting old freaking sucks.
Preaching to the choir, buddy.
So it's been something that I've been fighting for a long time, and they finally convinced me that I have to have this thing called a bifocal. Like, I thought it was only people in their 60s and 70s that had to wear these damn things, but unfortunately, the ophthalmologist or whatever the heck you call that eye doctor dude, he said no. Once you hit 45, you're done, dude.
That's so true. It's so true. Ask Chris Cowan; he'll tell you.
out of my element, wearing something that I'm not really used to, but I'm getting used to it. I can actually read now, so I'm a little happier that way.
No yellow, huh? How come no yellow?
It's coming back, baby. I got to give it just a little rest for a few minutes.
Ditching the Steven Stills look, huh?
Hey, I might come back with something better.
Badass. Something badass, Jason.
Yes, sir.
So we have a good guest with us tonight. Tremendous. So, and he's there's a big story behind him, but let's take a little break. Go to the commercials. Let's remind everybody to do what?
Hey, let's get out there and hit that like button. Actually, you know what? I'm liking the love button lately. You know that little heart thing down there? Hit that sucker for a few weeks now instead of the thumbs up.
Hey, Matt Miller says he's not going to stop with just your eyes. You need some other adjustments.
I'm sure.
You can always count on Matt, right?
Right.
And Chris Simmons says getting old sucks. I don't know. I don't know. Beats the alternative, right?
What's that?
Not getting old. But I didn't hear you. Say it again.
As that makes no sense at all.
Not getting old? That means you're done. So, all right. So let's take a commercial break. Show some love to our sponsors and show some of the love to the sponsors up in the top of the screen in the top right corner above Jason's head. And call us at RetroCycle. We have all the parts you need. That's it. That's all I got to say about that.
Hey, we'll see you guys.
RetroCycle.com. Call us. We're here.
Everything we do at the track shapes what we build for the street and the dirt.
You can see how bad these guys want it. The race to the line.
For us, racing is not for the trophies or the glory. We compete because it makes everything we do faster, more durable, and tested to a higher standard. For S&S, racing is the ultimate in proven performance, and we've been proving it since 1958.
Hi, I'm Tom. I'm with Banks Brothers Motorcycles. One of the things I want to show you today is our new improved engine puller.
The changes to this machine has been in the arms and in the hands. We put hind joints in the hand to allow rotation of the engine, which makes it easier to get it in and out of the frame. With the angle change, we have equal clamping pressure on them. And over here we have what's called the posi lock, which allows this to be locked in place and the engine can't swing from side to side.
And we're going to show you just how easy it is to pull the motor out of the bike right now. George is actually going to come in, make contact with the cylinders, tighten it down, he's going to pull it out of there.
You lift it up, rotate it, and bring the assembly out of the frame. You see the motor starting to move, and it centers itself. This allows no side play once the motor's in place, and it keeps it safe. It can't fall out.
Visit BanksBrothersMotorcycles.com to order your Banks lift.
And back.
Great stuff.
Heck yeah.
Great stuff. You don't get commercials like that on regular television, do you?
Only right here on Cannonball Chronicles.
Only on the Chronicles. And if you want to advertise your product, you better get on board with us. Let me tell you, this is the place. Target audience 100%. I'm telling you, this is the place to advertise.
Hey, so guys, I want to break in for 1 second because Nancy Weems was nice enough to give us the answer to the challenge coin stuff. Jason, you wanted to talk about that a little bit more, but she gave us a link to the Wikipedia page.
Oh, right on.
So, Chris, do your magic. Do your reading like you do on the news of the week.
A challenge coin is a small coin or medallion bearing an organization's insignia or emblem and carried by the organization's members. Traditionally, they have been given to prove membership when challenged and to enhance morale. Some challenge coins have created controversy, and their creators have been threatened with jail. They also are collected by service members and law enforcement personnel. Historically, challenge coins were presented by unit commanders in recognition of special achievement by a member of the unit. They could also be exchanged in recognition of visits to an organization. Modern-day challenge coins may feature popular culture attributes or organizational values. Modern challenge coins are made in a variety of sizes and are often made using popular cultural references, including superheroes and other well-known characters in a way that creates a parody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Chris Callen. We appreciate everything you do for us here. That was great. Cool stuff. So Matt Miller wants to know if I've used my Banks lift. Yeah, I mean, how can you not use the Banks lift? It's the greatest thing ever. I mean, I'm toting engines around. I lifted one off the floor. I put it up on the bench. Cool stuff. Cool stuff.
Heck yeah. Hey, so guess what?
What?
We have a guest waiting.
Why don't we bring him in?
I think we should. So tonight's guest is not only one of our great sponsors of both the Motorcycle Cannonball and the Cross Country Chase, but he is actually, for the first time, going to be competing in this year's chase with a BMW, which is pretty cool. So I'm excited to get to know this guy a little bit more. Hopefully you guys will too. And with that, let's bring in our rider, Mr. Greg Allen. Hey there, Greg. What's happening?
Hey there.
What's going on, Greg? How are you?
We're doing great, thanks.
Excellent.
Happy to be here.
So for you guys out there that don't know, this is Greg Allen. He is been one of our great sponsors of the event for both the Motorcycle Cannonball and the Cross Country Chase. Greg is from what part of Michigan, Greg?
Marshall, Michigan, Battle Creek.
Right on. And for those people that don't know out there, Greg has been a supporter of the event with his insurance agency, Greg Allen Insurance Agency. Greg, let's start out talking about that a little bit of, kind of what you do in the professional world of motorcycles.
Well, I've really specialized to become a motorcycle insurance agent. And for our Michigan, Indiana market, it's the new modern bikes. And we're kind of like the number one agent for a couple of our carriers. And then when I got involved with and did my first run with the Cannonball in 2014, I really saw there was a huge need for someone to help customers get the right coverages and the right values on their bikes. And we all know what Cannonball has done to the values of these bikes that are now being ridden instead of sitting in somebody's living room or in a museum. And my involvement with Cannonball has helped me to stay on top of getting, the values of these bikes. These bikes are just going crazy with values. So, and, the fun part of this is the people that I'm riding with really not only are just customers, but they're truly friends of mine.
Right. That's a good point to make of how motorcycles have actually value over the last, say 10 years. Since the Cannonball started in 2010, of what they've done for pre-1930 motorcycles. Not even events like ours. Other events like Race of the Gentleman and Sons of Speed and some of the other antique vintage things that have really come into light over the last few years of, like you said, really bringing value to these machines instead of being a typical, what I call a coffee table piece in somebody's house or in a museum.
My connection with Cannonball has kept me very closely connected to this community, and because I've seen firsthand what has happened with these values of the bikes. And my partner in this, so I couldn't do it without, which is Haggerty Insurance, they were very willing and eager to allow me to insure these bikes for what their real values were. Their valuation tool was kind of behind the 8-ball, and they hadn't quite kept up with these Cannonball bikes. So I've been able to help get that valuation brought up to speed and also make sure we get our customers the right values on their bikes.
Right. So what, when you're looking at somebody's collection and you're talking to them about insurance, what do you think is the most important thing about insuring a collection?
In my mind, it has to be, how does the claim get handled if there is a loss? I think that's the most important part. With Haggerty Insurance, the value that you agree to up front is the guaranteed value that's used at the time of loss. Every other company in America will agree to the value up front, but their valuation at the end still says actual cash value. So that can create a real gray area in my mind at the time of loss. If it's a bike that's caught on fire in the Cannonball or a bike that got stolen at the end of the Cannonball, we all know some of those stories.
Right.
It's the value that you agreed to up front. When I write that policy, the client knows that's the value that's going to be the guaranteed value if they have to settle a loss. And so to me, that's one of the most important parts of this.
Greg, I got a question for you, and I think this is relevant to what we're talking about here. Is I think it came to some people's attention during the last Cannonball or some of the previous events that their antique vehicle insurers didn't insure them if they were involved in a competition. Can you speak to that?
I can. Some of the antique vehicle carriers have very, very strict, limited riding restrictions. And so at the beginning of, I think it was 18, I got a rash of calls just before the Cannonball because people found out their carrier wouldn't cover their bike when they were in the event because of a combination of the miles they were going to ride. And it was not really a race, but there's a little bit of a competitive nature of it. And Haggerty has no mileage restrictions, none. So if you've got an old Panhead and it's your everyday rider bike, there's no restriction on how many miles you can ride. So I think that's another one of those key components of having Haggerty for the carrier.
Well, I think it's very important for our guests who are involved with the Cannonball or interested or have antique bikes to understand that when they enter an event like this, they really should check with their carrier first, or check with you if their carrier doesn't cover them.
So I had a conversation with one of my clients, a new client, that called and said, you know, I could really, I hate the thought of losing a bike if my other carrier didn't cover the bike, but this was a person of significant net worth. And if there was an accident, they would also deny the liability coverage too. So that could potentially cost somebody more money than the cost of the bike.
All right. So we have a couple of questions from the audience here directed at you or Haggerty or whatever. Tim Kern says, Haggerty rocks. They have my bikes and my hot rod. Great people. And then Walter Bednarski said, can the agreed upon value be adjusted as prices increase on the bikes?
Absolutely.
So how does that work? Tell our audience how to do that.
My customer calls me and said, hey, the valuation of my bike has gone up. Will you increase it? And I'll say yes. And I've never had Haggerty question that.
And our good friend Mike Podger, you know Podge, right? Mike says, be nice if someone could talk Haggerty or anybody into insuring antique bikes in Canada. At this point, it is next to impossible to get insurance for old bikes. What do you know about that?
Every time I run into one of my friends or AMCA members that lives in Canada, I get the question, when are you going to do motorcycles in Canada? They're working on it, but I don't have any definite timeline. They'll do cars in Canada, but it is something that's being worked on, and it's a frequent question I get asked. And as soon as it's going to happen, I've been assured they'll let me know.
And you being right on the border there, you can jump right on that, can't you?
Absolutely.
That's great. That's great. If any of our viewers have any other questions pertaining to insuring their antique bikes, well, you don't just do antique bikes, do you?
We do the antique bikes, the antique cars, antique tractors. Haggerty got their start doing antique wooden boats. We have so many of those boats that are in pristine condition because the Great Lakes, which is fresh water, has preserved those old boats. So that's where Haggerty actually started, is doing the vintage boats.
All right. And then Keith Kronoff wants to know, how do you put a value on the bike if a bunch of parts are not original?
Their process is very liberal, and we basically take the word of the client that says, I think my bike is worth this much, or this is how much I want to insure it for. And, you know, if there's a few repop parts, we don't question that.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but the customer puts a value on their bike, right? And then they pay a dollar amount toward the value they decide it's worth, right?
That is correct. Yeah, that is correct.
So it's not, Haggerty doesn't really care. Well, I shouldn't say they don't, but does Haggerty care? So let's say I say the bike is worth $60,000, right? I'm paying a premium based on what I think the value is, and Haggerty either accepts or doesn't accept that. Yes?
That's correct.
No? Yeah.
That's correct.
So that kind of answers that. Show bike, do they do show bikes and modern bikes? Nancy Weems wants to know.
Yes, on show bikes, and on a case-by-case basis, I can add a brand new bike to someone's collection of old bikes.
There you go.
I'll give you an example. I have a customer that was a Harley-Davidson employee, has a very nice collection of old bikes, and he buys a new Ultra Classic every year. And he used to get one on the employee program, and his Ultra Classic, the value of that was less than some of the more expensive antique bikes on the policy. So why make the guy go buy another policy for one or two new bikes? So it's done on a case-by-case basis, but we can add, a brand new bike to a collection of old bikes.
And I have one more question, and then we're going to talk about the man behind Greg Allen Insurance. But they also insure project or incomplete bikes, which is very important. Tell us about that.
That is correct. I'll give you an example. If you've got a knucklehead motor and you got a title and you've got a frame, we all know there's a significant value in that. And I can insure that while it's being worked on and restored, and we just put fire and theft on it. So yes, those bikes can be insured and put fire and theft on them up until the point where they're ready to be licensed and titled.
Very cool. Very cool. Jason, I've dominated the questions. Over to you, buddy.
Dude, you took my last question. I was going to just comment on that aggregate parts thing, because that's actually pretty cool. I mean, it covers tools and parts and a lot of different things in shops that are usually insured. So another good selling point for Haggerty.
Well, then can I ask another question?
I guess.
Do you do garage keepers liability, Greg?
No.
Okay, there we go.
No, I get asked for that one.
What's that?
Another one that I ask a lot is I ask about spare parts. I mean, you think about some of these guys that have a nice collection, and then you ask them, how much money have you got in spare parts sitting on the shelf? And then the light bulb turns on and they realize, oh, my homeowners isn't going to cover all those spare parts. And, so it's very common to do the spare parts for very minimal amount of money. I met a guy in Jefferson, Texas last year when I was down there, and he says, yeah, I had a garage fire and I lost all my spare parts. So that's another question we ask, is spare parts.
Right.
Well, let's talk about the man behind Greg Allen Insurance. They want to know, where is it? I just missed it. I lost. Back to business from Mike Draco. Back to business. What does Greg ride? And we were going to get into that. So since Mike asked it, let's find out.
Well, the Chase bike is a 1932 BMW. It's an R2. I bought it last October from Kelly Maudlin. He had it in his museum. And been working the hairballs, getting the bugs out of that, trying to get it reliable for the Chase. The bike I have ridden as the sponsor in 16, 18, and in 19 in the Chase is a 1968 BMW. And I bought that from the original owner, had the original tires on it when I bought it. And we did a mechanical restoration. There's a picture of the R2 in front of one of the murals in my hometown. And then
I want to go quick. For most people that don't know what an R2 is, let's spend just a few seconds on that. And why don't you familiarize us what that actually is?
The 1932 is a pre-war bike. Mine is a 200cc. It's a hand clutch with a manual shift 3-speed on the right side. It's a hardtail with a shaft drive. It's got a leaf spring on the front. It's a 12-volt generator, point ignition. Pretty simple, pretty reliable bike.
So go back to where you said 100cc.
Yeah, it's 198 cc's. When that was built in Germany, if it was under 200 cc's, you didn't have to pay taxes on it, and you also didn't have to have a motorcycle license because it was under 200 cc's.
Wow. And what do you think 200 cc's is going to do for you on the Chase?
It's going to make my butt sore. It actually doesn't ride bad. It's got nice springs on the seat. And, I've been riding it here in Michigan where we have the biggest potholes in the world. So if I can handle some potholes in Michigan, I'm sure we'll be fine in the Ozarks.
Right. So tell me about the ride on it. What's your average speed? How's the thing ride?
It actually rides pretty good. The book says the top speed is 59 miles an hour. And I'm finding if I'm at 40 to 45 is a comfortable speed for me. That's what my class is predicated on, 45 miles an hour. And I still have a little throttle left at that speed. So I really don't care to push it to see if it'll really go 59 miles an hour.
Not even one time?
I know from my experience with all the riders, the Frank Westfalls, the guys that have got power, slow and steady wins the game in this.
Right. Yeah, that is true. That is true. But it's tough not to crack on that thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. It actually is a pretty cool bike. It starts good. It runs pretty good. Been having a few little hairballs with the fuel seems to be diminishing when I'm riding. So I took the pet cack out and cleaned that, made sure the screen was clean. But and I did just rebuild the top end of the motor. I took it apart and rebuilt the top end.
Now, is this stuff that you do on your own?
Yeah, I have my own shop here at the office, and so I've done all the work myself.
Oh, good. So I want to know, what else have you worked on that since you acquired that bike last year? Has it been kind of a learning curve with it? Have you had much to do? And what about finding parts for it?
Well, in the very beginning, I realized it had a Bing carburetor on it, but it was made new with an Amel. And when I first started riding it, the spark plug was white. I mean, it was way too lean. And so I worked with a guy named Charlie at Bing Carburetors, and I got a bigger main jet, a bigger mid-range jet, and I put a new needle in it and new float. And so I've been working on getting the carburation right. That was the very first part, because I just didn't want to ride it very much as lean as it was.
Right. And now you think you got all that mostly sorted out?
Yeah, I think so. Last night when I got back from a short ride, I had a nice cocoa brown color on the plug, so I know I'm pretty. So you still there, Jason?
I hung up just for a second.
Okay.
So,
Some old experience with dirt bikes is, you kind of have to adjust and tune to the right plug color. And when I got back last night, I checked in. I had a nice cocoa brown color on the plug.
oh, good. So what do you think you're going to have to do with it while you're on the chase? Do you think any conditions will change from where you're at in Michigan to wherever we're going to be at in the Ozarks?
I'm not sure how much it'll change. I've gotten kind of comfortable with adjusting the Bing carburetors. And I always just kind of tune based on plug color. And I really haven't paid attention. Are we going to have any altitude differences in the Ozarks than we have here?
Well, that's a secret.
Okay. I guess I'll just be prepared, and I'll carry my screwdriver and my 9mm wrench in my pocket to fine tune as we go.
Heck yeah.
So one of your buddies is watching tonight. One of your pals, a fellow who I refer to as the Decider, and you know him better as Pat Simmons. You got anything
Oh,
to
hello,
say to
Pat.
Pat? You want to tell us a story about Pat? I know there's a story that's very near and dear to your heart. So.
Oh, yes, there is. I met Pat at Columbia, Georgia in the 2014 Cannonball. And, there's that photo. It was raining like crazy that day. And so that's why it was kind of foggy. And we had stopped at the Dairy Queen. I don't know if you remember that. And then when it was time to leave, Chris's bike wouldn't start. Pat's bike did. And so Buzz said, hey, go with Pat, stay with him. In case he has any problem, you can help him out. And the first time we stopped for gas, Pat's bike didn't want to start. So I said, okay, I'll give you a push. And so every time we stopped that day, I was giving Pat a push to get him started. And so we were about 90 miles from Coker Tire, and something fell off Pat's bike and hit me right on the shin. And so I caught up to him. I said, Pat, we got to stop. I said, something has fallen off your bike. So we pulled over, we stopped, and here's oil running out of the bottom of his motor. The drain plug with the little petcock had fallen out of the bike. And I think if I hadn't caught him quick enough, he probably would have ruined his motor. So a lot of people stopped. Yeah, a lot of people stopped, offered to help, but nobody had anything that was fine thread. And so Pat decided to get into his MacGyver mode, and he went and broke a branch off a tree and got his jackknife out, and he whittled himself a drain plug that he screwed into that motor, and he, pumped some oil back into it, and off we went, headed towards Coker Tire. And I think we rode about 90 miles like that. And then as we were coming into Coker Tire, we were going down this really steep hill. It was raining like crazy. And, Pat's bike only had that little band clamp on the back of it. And I think he went to slow down. The next thing you know, he's sideways to the right and sideways to the left. And I thought, oh shit, he's going to crash. And he rode it out and didn't go down. And we pulled up in front of Coker Tire, and that's where you saw that photo. Pat came up and he says, Greg, you were my guardian angel today. So, and he's been a dear friend ever since.
That's a great story.
Greg, Pat says maybe he better come along on the chase so he can push you.
That's fine.
But he's also said that's the story's all lies. It's lies, he says.
I didn't embellish it any at all, I promise.
Yeah, and I don't know. I had a log out, log back in. But did you mention that you picked up his rear stand in 2018?
Do you have that photo?
I think we do somewhere. In fact, let's start rolling some of the photos because we're getting close to being out of time anyway. So there it is.
There it is. So in 18, I was tagging along behind Pat, and sure enough, another part fell off his motorcycle. And Pat was having a great Cannonball because his bike was running perfect. He was getting all his miles in, and the center stand or the rear stand fell off. So I stopped and picked it up. And when we got done at the end of the day, I said, did you lose something? And he just laughed and he thought that was funny.
Dude, Greg, I got to start getting at the end of the night. I could get some good parts for my own bike.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stop picking that shit up.
So there's one more story. I was riding with Chris in the 19 chase, and there was a part of her throttle fell off, and I ended up picking that part up, and Matt Miller helped her put it back together, and she finished that race out. So it was another one of those times when I was picking up parts that fell off the bike.
Chris says the pack can't ride anywhere without Greg.
Hey, I want to get into something before we forget it, because I think it's something important that Greg is also involved in, and that's the Talons Out Honor Flight.
Very important. Yep.
Yeah, thing is a super cool program that Greg is involved with. And I want Greg just to kind of explain a little bit before we run out of time, and kind of go over it a little bit, and of how maybe you guys out there can help get involved with this program also.
Well, the Talons Out is a local hub of a national program called the Honor Flight Program. And its mission is to take our World War II, our Korean and Vietnam veterans to Washington, D.C. for an all-expense paid trip to see the memorials that were built in their honor. I have been involved with fundraising for them now for 7 years. Last year during the COVID, my office and another friends, we ran 3 fundraisers last year, which made $16,600. So we paid for 32 veterans to go this year when we start to fly again. The Cannonball family has been tremendous at supporting me with unique items that we raffle off and make money on. Dean Borgioni, I got to give him a huge shout out. He donated 3 very large pieces of Scott Jacobs artwork to us. And those have been a huge success in having a live auction or a raffle for that. And so many of the Cannonball teams and chase teams have donated autographed shirts, posters, and so it really is pretty cool to have everyone from the Chase Cannonball family helping us out to take our veterans on these trips to Washington, D.C.
That's really great.
Let's take a look at some of your pictures, Greg, that you sent to us. That's a great charity, by the way, and I think Chris put up the link to it, the Talons Out Honor Flight.org. Is that right?
That's correct.
Right. So everybody, when you get a chance, check it out.
So there's another couple people that are viewing tonight. Pat and Chris Simmons have been very generous. They've donated some of Chris's Cannonball diary books that were personalized by Chris and Pat for our veterans. And so, we really appreciate that. And, when we have those items to auction off, they bring really good money, which helps us pay for this stuff. So thank you, Chris and Pat. We really appreciate your support.
That helped you get involved with the Cannonball people, right? When they donated those books.
That's correct. When I got on my bike and went to Columbus, Georgia, my original plan was to meet Chris and Pat in person and just say thank you. And then I was going to go to Washington, D.C. And then I just got so hooked on the antique bikes that I tagged along until we got to Cape Girardeau.
That's cool.
This is day 1. This was the day that we left Michigan to go to Atlantic City, and then from Atlantic City to Carlsbad. And the lady on the back is Pamela. She works for me, and at the time, she was the social media director for the agency, because I didn't know how to do Facebook for anything then. And so her job was to take the photos, interview the riders, and do the post and tell the story. So, and you can see all the gear we had tied on that little BMW.
Yeah, you loaded down pretty good.
Oh yeah, we were way over the rated capacity.
Tell us about this photo. What's going on here?
Well, in 2018, we had those torrential rains, and Jason had to cancel that day because it was not safe. And I didn't have the option to put my bike in a trailer or on a trailer or in someone's van. And Michael and David said, well, hey, we're going to ride anyway. And I said, okay, I'll go with you. And so anybody who's ever ridden with Michael Lichter knows when he's ready for a shot, he motions you to, come up on the right or come up on the left. And when he gets you where you want, he'll tell you what to hold tight. And so I'm riding along, focused on him. The next thing I know, he pulls the camera out of his raincoat and starts shooting. And just about that time, this big semi just blew by me and scared the dickens out of me. And so it was a pretty memorable photo. He showed that to me the next day, and he says, Greg, this is a really good one.
It is a really good one. Really good.
And the teeth in the radiator on that was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that helps make the shot, right?
Absolutely.
What's this next shot that we got here? Where's
that's
this?
That's the Columbia River Gorge from 18. And that was just a beautiful, beautiful part of that ride. And I've never ridden any place where the wind blew consistently as hard as it did in that gorge.
That was crazy.
I remember that day because the town or the place that hosted us had one of our better meals because we had that fresh salmon meal. Remember that, Jason?
I do. Yeah.
That brewery that was caught that morning.
Yeah, that was a great place. Trying to remember the name of that. Oh, the Dalles was the name of the city.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That was the windy day, right?
Yeah, that was the windy day.
Out for us.
Greg, after you tell us about this, we have a video that you sent in that we want to take a look at too. But tell us about this picture while Chris sets up the video for us.
Okay. Well, this is the Grim Sweeper. And for those of us who were there, we know this is Cole. And it was some of his antics. He showed up in the morning when it was time to start. And so he was one of the sweep drivers. So then he was the Grim Sweeper.
I understand a lot of people didn't get a kick out of the costume, but it's pretty fun. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So,
hey, before the video, I want to ask a question, and you've kind of go over a few of the things, but tell me what your most memorable experience is, either between the 16 or the 18 Cannonball. I want to hear, like I said, the most memorable experience.
I think probably rolling into California, into Carlsbad, California, after crossing America for something that I was really kind of nervous because the diversity of that trip, crossing the desert and the high temperatures was something that made me nervous. And it was like when we came into California, it was a memorable moment because there were so many people there, so many friends that we had made, and it was nice to celebrate crossing America together as a big Cannonball family.
Right. That's good.
I had someone ask me, how do you describe the Cannonball family? And I said, the Cannonball family is like a big batch of fudge. It's mostly sweet with a few nuts.
Most of ours are nuts and barely any fun. Hey, I think we got a video. Let's cue this thing up and check it out.
The Wabash Cannonball Bridge.
The famous Wabash Cannonball Bridge.
they've written songs about that.
Wet and slippery.
That was a day. That was so that was in 18, right?
16.
16, that's right, 16. And that was actually a day that it rained on that bridge.
Yeah. There
in
goes
places
Ryan Allen. Ryan Allen's throttle head broke, and he was pulling on his throttle manually with his hand because his throttle cable broke.
I remember. You know, this bridge, I mean, just looking at it, even on a modern bike, is, you know, people would do a second take of going over that thing. I mean, we took these guys over there with skinny little tires and, you know, next to nothing tread. You know, a lot of these guys, it took everything that they got to.
You gotta love that you can actually see the green slime on the wood too, right?
You know,
yeah.
Big
it was pretty slippery.
You know, big stickers, splinters. You know, this bridge is pretty crazy, and it's been one of the most memorable experiences probably on any of the rides that we've ever done.
Did anybody try to ride down the middle?
We've had a few people try to ride down the middle.
And how's that work out?
They didn't like it at all. I can tell you that.
So Jason, do you remember what happened right after this bridge? We went through the toll booth, and then we had to make a right-hand turn across the cattle crossing, and the next 20 miles was all dirt.
I think so, something like that. Yeah.
And then when we were on the dirt, and a lot of people were cussing and swearing, they hated the dirt. And then Victor Babcock, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Victor, he went flying by us going like crazy. And when we saw him that night at check-in at the hotel, I said, Victor, you were really taking it to everybody. He says, yeah, I'm an old dirt rider. So I remember that part of the dirt road.
Right. Got to have a little dirt.
That's right.
So, and let's see what else we.
This was the ride home after we left Key West from the chase, and I rode back home with Jim Guilfoyle and Roger Green.
All right.
This was in Washington, D.C., and that was the bronze statue of Teddy Roosevelt.
And that was on a...
Because he was in a wheel. Yes, that was a Talons Out mission.
And when do those usually occur?
Well, depending on funding, you know, it's all predicated on how much money we have. We usually try to fly mostly during the early spring months and late fall months because Washington, D.C. is really, really too hot to take our veterans like in July. It's too hot. So we try to do spring and fall for flights. And if we have enough money, we'll do 3 flights a year. Otherwise, it's 2. It costs us between about $90,000 and $100,000 for each flight because we charter the flight.
All right. Interesting. So let's. Do we have any more pictures that we want to talk about here, or did we get through them all?
I think we covered most. There might be something else there.
All right. Well, let's go this year. I got just a couple last things. We are running out of time here. Really, before we get to the last thing, I want to kind of go down a path that I usually end on, and that is, other than getting prepared for the cross-country chase this year, and then the Cannonball here in September that you'll be on it with us. What else is in store for Greg Allen? What will we see out of Greg Allen over the next year?
I think just getting prepared for the chase next year, which will be a full event. You know, this year is going to be 5 days. So there'll be time and effort put into getting, you know, the bike ready for the chase next year.
Right.
That's Thomas Pat from Germany. He was there in 2016.
Miss that
Remember
guy.
they came over with six people from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And this is at one of our homecomings for the veterans. And all of these superheroes donate their time, and they come out to welcome our veterans home. And our veterans love having their photos taken with the superheroes. They just absolutely look forward to that. It's very gratifying for them. And then this is the entire group in Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow. That's impressive.
So it's an average of about 80 veterans, 80 to 88 veterans, and every veteran has a guardian assigned to them. They are never allowed to be alone. We always have someone with them. So if they should get tired and they need a ride, which is a wheelchair, we do bring a wheelchair for every single veteran just in case they want one.
Oh, good. Good. So
well, Jason, you just another second. You had talked about the challenge coin,
mm-hmm.
and I couldn't put my hands on one, but I have a challenge coin that from one of the missions to DC, a lady that was one of our directors and a bus captain. I was her assistant captain. She was a 3-star general, and she actually coined me with one of the Talons Out coins for being her assistant that one day. So I certainly understand the meaning of a challenge coin and the military tradition for doing that.
Right.
And Jason, thank you for your service.
Thank you. It's been an honor of mine. So we're at that point. We're out of time, unfortunately. I know we could probably sit here and chat for at least another hour or so, but I know all of us got some stuff to do, and you guys out there are, I'm sure, busy working on stuff. And Greg, I'm sure you're busy with the insurance. Before we get out of here, I want to give you a chance to tell people out there how they can get a hold of you if they have any insurance questions, or if they're needing help insuring their bikes, of how they can get a hold of you and where to find you.
The website is gregalleninsurance.com. The phone number is 269-781-2247. They can find us on Facebook or on the internet to get a hold of us.
Perfect. So for all you guys out there with antique bikes and cars, I suggest that you get with Greg out there. He is a great, many people swear by him, and I've had really good luck with him with insuring their collections and feeling safe with him. So, and that's a big bonus. So again, I want to thank Greg for coming on tonight. We'll have to catch up with him while we're on the chase, which is really only about 3 weeks away now.
Whoa.
It's creeping up on us here.
3 weeks away.
So 3 weeks away, and I know I'm getting super excited. It's been fun watching everybody out there in social media land getting prepared and starting to talk a little bit of smack to each other and talking about the ride. So it's going to be exciting. Again, I'm ready. I hope you guys are. So, hey, Chris, did you end up getting that video that I sent over to you?
No, I'm sorry, Jason. I didn't even know you sent one. I'm sorry.
All right. Well,
maybe we'll get it next week.
Next week's surprise, beginning of the show, we'll share a video with you from Kanab, Utah. But other than that, hey, I want to thank everybody out there for tuning in tonight, for everybody that hit that like and share button to help spread the message of the Cannonball Chronicles. I am Jason Sims, along with my co-host Robbie, and we will be back here next week, same time, same Cannonball channel, and with a different guest. Thanks, guys. We'll see you guys later.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Greg.